You are watching Access LaPorte County, Channel 97. Coming up next is the December 13th, 2022 meeting of the Michigan City Board of Zoning Appeals. You can find more information for this meeting by visiting www.accesslaportecounty.org.
Good evening, everyone. It is Tuesday, December 13th, 2022 at 6:15. This is the regular meeting of the Michigan City Board of Zoning Appeals. Ms. Collins, if you would do the roll call, please.
Of course. Mr. Ricky,
Present.
Mr. Fred,
Here.
Miss Kathy,
Here.
Miss Deborah,
Here.
Mr. Lawrence,
Here.
Attorney Hale.
Here.
So ends your roll call, officers.
Great. We have a quorum this evening. Next item is approval of the minutes from the last regular meeting, which was in October 11th. Are there any changes to be made? If there are none, then I'll accept a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve the October minutes.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Hear the vote.
Mr. Ricky,
Yes.
Mr. Fred,
Yes.
Miss Kathy,
Yes.
Miss Deborah,
Yes.
and Mr. Lawrence.
Yes.
So ends your vote. Oh, Miss Dale. Right. So ends your vote.
Minutes are approved. So we're on to our first petition this evening. We have three. This is the first one is B-103-22. Who is going to introduce this petition this evening?
Mr. Zimmer,
Yes, sir.
I don't know if Mr. Smith is here. Mr. Smith, are you present? Would you come up, please, sir? I would just advise this body that I had an opportunity to review the notice provisions and documentation supplied by Mr. Smith. And I want to explain what my concern is. I had this timely. Mr. Smith submitted them timely. He did a good job. He's got all of the addresses that he's supposed to have. It consists of 5 pages of name. So when I went over it the other day, I found that there was one page that didn't have any check mark. That is, I could not find any documentation for the last page of names that were submitted. And we contacted Mr. Smith, and he acknowledged that he had submitted the first 4 pages and got documentation, which is accurate. He's got all the names down, and they all were properly notified. But the last page was not mailed out. And so there is no notice for approximately 15 adjoining neighbors. And therefore, it's my very strong recommendation that you're not able to hear this matter tonight. And if Mr. Smith would ask for a continuance, I think that it would be appropriate, and it's certainly consistent with what we've always done in the past, to make the public announcement that this matter will be heard at our regular January meeting, and that Mr. Smith need only send notices to the 1 page of homeowners that he missed for tonight. We notified him as soon as we knew, but unfortunately, that's the status.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Hale. Mr. Smith, would you like a continuance then until the January meeting?
Yes. Can I also add comment?
Sure.
With the continuance, and it's particular matter. If it's possible that my business can reopen under these conditions, even though I have the 15 names that are still that still need to be sent out. I did make sure I do my due diligence over the matter that isn't actually my responsibility. So I'm currently, I guess, in a sense, getting punished for something that wasn't necessarily my responsibility in the first place. But considering that everything has been taken care of and will continue to be taken care of in a timely manner, I would hope that that is something that can be done.
Mr. Hale, do you want to speak to that?
Well, initially, I would point out to the members of the BZA that our rules and the application form that Mr. Smith signed clearly state that notification is the responsibility of the petitioner and owner. There's no doubt about that. It is Mr. Smith's responsibility to provide those notices. It's unfortunate. I'm sure it's an honest mistake, and I have sympathy for him, but it was his responsibility to get it done, and he didn't. And so I repeat, I think this body cannot hear this matter. As to his request, I'm not sure that this body is in a position to hear that matter. That would be more of the inspection department and the plan director.
To add to that, with handling it was my responsibility to handle all the documentation, and unfortunately, there was a page that was missed. Overall, initially, the matter to do this whole process and application was supposed to be the responsibility of the property owner. I'm not the property owner, but to make sure that everything was done in a timely manner, yes, I did take responsibility for that. So it's not my fault that this wasn't done in the first place because I don't own the property. And if I didn't take responsibility for it, the process probably most likely would have took longer than necessary. So
Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith, can you hear me?
yeah,
Can you? Yes. It's not the decision of the board. I believe Mr. Hill stated it correctly. It's really the decision of me and Sylvia. So it's not the decision of the board whether or not you can operate, but it's also something we should talk about. Not tonight. We can talk
Okay.
about it this week. Actually, you can come in this week and we can discuss it. Does that sound reasonable? But I think tonight, for the matter at hand, I would strongly advise to ask for a continuance. It means you will only have to notify that last page.
okay.
And we could set up.
Also, I do apologize. I don't mean to hold anything up.
No, you're not holding up anything. No, you're not holding up anything. This is all valid questions. But it also means you won't have to provide like the newspaper notice. It does take care of some of those things with respect to you don't have to start all over. But we can talk. Let's talk this week about this. Okay.
Sounds good. Thank you. So with that, I would ask for a continuance.
Okay, very good. And so then we'll put you on the January agenda. Is there a motion to approve his request?
A motion to approve his request for continuance to the January meeting.
Is there a second?
A second.
I'm gonna call for the vote. Mr. Ricky,
Yes.
Mr. Fred,
Yes.
Miss Kathy,
Yes.
Miss Deborah,
Yes.
Mr. Lawrence.
Yes.
So ends your vote.
May I add one more thing?
Yes.
I would add that Mr. Smith has been nothing but you've done nothing but do the things that we've asked you to do. So thank you for
No
that.
problem.
And also just to piggyback on that is you from day one, I want you to acknowledge that you put forth the effort in a situation that was not solemnly, on you, and you took that responsibility. So as a business owner, I commend you for standing up here. And I will, before you leave or before this day ends, we will sit down and we can talk further on your request, because that's I understand where, we had talked about it earlier.
Sure. I appreciate it.
Sure. Thanks for being here, Mr. Smith, and we'll
Thank you,
see you
guys.
next month.
Finally, I would like to add, for purposes of all of the persons and interested parties that are watching on Zoom or that are in tonight's audience, this matter has been continued. It is petition B-103-22 relating to property
1601, no,
1601 Franklin Street and 1603 Franklin Street. The petitioner is asking for a special exception use to operate a tattoo parlor. And our next regular meeting, when this matter will be heard, is January
9th.
What happened?
It's January 10th.
January 10th in this council chambers at 6 p.m.
Great, thanks. And then commissioners, you received Mr. Hale's attorney report on this petition, so hang on to it for next month if you would.
all documents.
All documents. Well, I think, the petition and the attorney's report, so that they don't have to send out a new one. Okay, so we're on to the next petition then, B-104-22, Ton and Blank. Who's here
So,
to speak to this?
yes, so I'll introduce this project. The project is is a special exemption. They are interested in opening a new facility, a Boys and Girls Club, on 3 vacant parcels. And it would be located on Cool Springs. It says 905, but we don't know because they're going to be combined. So, and it's from Ton and Blank and Kenneth Catalier.
Can I actually use that?
May I just note at the beginning,
Yes.
I want to apologize to this body and to the public that are here this evening. You know that I was checking on notice documentation. I just want you to know that I did have it earlier, but I only was supplied with half of the notices. There are approximately 50 or more individual property owners that I had to check, and I just received the others approximately 10 minutes to 6 o'clock this evening. So that's why I had this delay, and I thank you if you're not going to forgive me for that. But having reviewed all of the notice documentation, I want to assure this body that the petitioner has supplied all of the notification documents that we require, and you're free to go forward with this matter.
Thank you, Mr. Hale.
Just to piggyback off of that, so the issue that it didn't come all the way through because it's a very large document. So they were sent in a timely manner, and we did receive all of them. But I print out the second copy shortly. So thank you all for being patient for that.
So I'll start, but I'm going to have Drew pull up an overview just for everyone's benefit.
Mr. Novak, you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, that would probably be helpful. My name is Anthony Novak. I'm an attorney with Newby, Lewis, Kaminsky, and Jones in LaPorte. I'm here both as an attorney for the Boys and Girls Club of LaPorte County, and I'm also here as a board member of the Boys and Girls Clubs of LaPorte County, as well as like 8 other board members that are here in
Great.
support of our
Thank
petition.
you for being here.
Yeah, so I believe, Drew, I think it's maybe one slide up, maybe 23. I think I lied to you. Yeah, there it is. So one housekeeping matter, it's very minor. Our legal name had a typo in the application. It's actually Boys and Girls Clubs, plural. We have multiple clubs within LaPorte County. So hopefully we get approval tonight. It's for the Boys and Girls Clubs of LaPorte County, Inc. Here with me tonight is Michelle Schur, our executive director. And then Ken Catalier, Ton and Blank's vice president of real estate. And then, as I said, 8 other board members in support. So tonight we're seeking a special exception related to construction of a new standalone facility that'll be just under 35,000 square feet near the intersection of Jackson Street and Cool Spring, just south of the old YMCA building. This falls into the category of community center, which requires a special exception in area zoned R1C, which this is. So each of us will be brief, although all three of us will talk. I know how everyone likes to keep things moving and get home. So I want to introduce why we're here procedurally. Michelle will talk about the needs for expansion. Ken will talk about the actual site and the building. So as indicated in our petition, we're the contingent purchaser of these 3 lots currently owned by the Paragon Group, LLC. We had a letter consenting to our filing. Land zone R1C, community center requiring special exception. Beyond the request for special exception, we have no other requests from a zoning perspective. No variances of use, no variances of development standards. And then finally, leading up to this meeting, we did have conversations with neighbors who had certain concerns with safety and the overall residential area of the neighborhood. We do believe that this development takes those concerns into consideration, and we appreciate the time tonight. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Michelle to talk a little bit about the organization.
Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. As Anthony said, I'm Michelle. I'm the CEO of Boys and Girls Clubs of LaPorte County. I started in this role in March of 2020. As you can imagine, a lot has changed since then, and we're just excited to be where we are and here today. So I'm going to provide a very high-level overview of our programs and what we really hope to accomplish with this facility. We were formerly Boys and Girls Club of Michigan City. So we're the same organization that's been providing services in this community for about 25, 26 years. We do exactly one thing, and we try to do it really well, which is to provide a safe, fun, enriching place for kids to go when school is not in session. Normally that's after school and during the summer. During the pandemic, we did expand our hours during times that schools were closed, so kids had a safe place to go and complete their virtual learning. Or just to be while their parents worked. All of our programming is very structured. Our kids follow curriculum that supports healthy lifestyles, character and fitness. Academic success is a huge part of our programming, and safety is our #1 priority. A lot of our standards are actually nationally mandated by Boys and Girls Clubs of America. We follow a strict 1:20 or less ratio of club members and staff. Our kids are heavily supervised. Everybody we employ is 18 years of age or over, just because we want to make sure that the kids are safe and that the programs are operating well. And one thing that's unique to our organization is all of our services are free. Many Boys and Girls Clubs either have a combination of a membership fee and program fees. We used to have a nominal membership fee. We wanted to eliminate all barriers for kids and families. So everything we do is free, and we're going to keep it that way as long as possible. So when I started, we had our 3 longtime sites, which were all right here in Michigan City: Pine School, Springfield School, and then a portion of the Elston building. We have what used to be the old library area, if you're familiar with that facility. Once the pandemic hit, we simply couldn't keep up with the demand for our services. We had clubs operating on wait lists, and that's a trend that's continued. We had many requests for additional services in new parts of the community. And so our board put together a feasibility study committee. And through that, we confirmed with the countywide, needs assessment that there's a huge demand for our services and that there's a high level of community support for us to expand. So this is actually phase 3 of a 3-phase expansion. Phase 1 was the addition of new clubs at Kingsford Heights and Westville. We are now in our 2nd year of programming there. We're adding 3 clubs in LaPorte beginning in January, and Michigan City will receive the standalone facility. So we work really closely with our schools. They were consulted about, where their students are, where there's potentially need for services, where there's wait lists in their programming, which was just about everywhere. And one of the things that they do for us is let us rent the Elston building. And we're really grateful for that. But at the same time, when you're repurposing an old facility, you can hit some barriers. And for us, those are physical size. We're just maxed out. We're going to go up to 200 kids this summer, and it's a tight fit. And it's not uncommon for us to have, in the summer especially, a waiting list that equals or exceeds the number of kids in our program. There's just not enough spaces for kids to go in the summer, and we don't even promote heavily because we don't want to displace our current members. So who knows how many kids there are out there that actually need these services. We also run into layout issues. Much of our space is hallway, which is not usable space for us. And our classrooms are classrooms. They're repurposed classrooms with the exception of the library. So they're small, trying to make them into something like a cafeteria or a STEM room or a rec room becomes challenging. And so this design is actually going to solve all of those issues for us. It will have capacity of approximately 350. It'll allow us to serve many more kids each year and hopefully really cut those wait lists. We're going to be able to add some key features for our club members, like a gym, which we do not currently have in our part of the facility, a cafeteria that can serve our kids in 2 shifts instead of the 4 that we currently have to use, much larger age-based program areas, and then, of course, some outdoor space, which we actually do not have, except that small area that you see if you drive by our area of the Elston building. We can also better serve our community's teen and tweens. This is a trickier age group because kids get to decide where they're going to spend their time. And so you have to have something to really attract them. And unfortunately, they don't necessarily want to spend their time in an old school. So they will have physical activity programming in the gym. We're going to be doing some workforce development programming, including, we hope, bringing potential employers right on site to interview students for their first jobs. We will have a dedicated STEM lab for high-level projects that are going to help them both academically and hopefully in the future, and just really be able to reach that age group in a new way. And then finally, we're really just going to be able to show this community's kids that they are worth investing in and that they deserve a space that's custom designed with their specific needs and interests in mind. And we believe that's how we can kind of propel them towards future success and achieving their dreams and having great futures. So with that said, that's our programs in a nutshell, and I'm happy to turn things over to Ken to talk about the layout.
Thank you, Michelle. Again, my name is Ken Catalier, Vice President of Real Estate for Ton and Blank Construction. So it's kind of a privilege, Ton and Blank is wholly owned by the Sisters of St. Francis, a nonprofit agency. So it's great to be working with another nonprofit group here, such as the Boys and Girls Clubs, Inc. Of LaPorte County, Inc. I want to stay on this sites drawing for you because this is going to be just a start off to discuss a little bit about what we have. If you're familiar with the site, it's heavily wooded, and to the south is the Shirley Hines Land Trust. To the east or to the right is the Aperion Senior Living, and also just at the very bottom is 1225 Cool Spring, which is the Franciscan medical offices that are there. To the north on the right, you see is the old YMCA. There's a vacant parcel there to the north on the left. And then, of course, there on the west side is a series of the residents that live on Concord Drive. The total parcel that we have, as mentioned earlier, is divvied up of 3. It makes up 3 parcels in the legal description. You'll see that. It's roughly, just under 4 for the one on the far right or the east, 5 in the middle, and a couple more in the west. So it totals up just under 12 acres, about 11.8 acres. So again, a rather heavily wooded area. Just to give you again let you know that this was a preliminary design. So the intent, this is the foundation of what we would like to see in discussions with the Boys and Girls Clubs members or board, but it could change. So again, as Anthony on piggyback on what he indicated, it's just under 35,000 square feet. There's a gymnasium that you can see in the rear because it's going to be elevated, or it has a height of 30 feet and 6 inches, which is just under what is required for this R1C zoning, that also under this exemption or this special use. If I could, Drew, if you could go to, there's some pictures further down, much further down, that show the architectural features of it. Yes, it's what. There we go. Yeah, in fact, yeah, that would be good. Yeah. Can't get it all on there. Huh. Can you turn it? Yeah. There you go. Perfect. Thank you. This shows again at the north end, the front entrance. You can see the higher 30 feet high, 6-inch gymnasium in the back. There's also some skirting on the first level on the roof that would hide the equipment that would serve from a HVAC standpoint, rooftop units for the facility. On the front, more than 30% of it will be windows on that front side. It is a composite of different things that it's mostly tilt wall concrete. However, on the gymnasium, our folks indicated they didn't want you to think you were going into a big block retail. So just concrete. So it will be available to have like some concrete, concrete textured or some kind of ephes that we could put on there. On the front, you would have some prefabbed steel panels, and there will be also brick veneer that would be on that as well. So between the 30% glass and some of the features there. Also, I think I'll point out the panels that look like wood. It's very comparable to what Sisters of St. Francis have in their Munster campus. If you've ever been to that hospital, these panels look very like a simulated wood, and they stand up to the elements really, really well. So that's kind of the outlay of the use of materials that's going to be on this. You could go through more pictures if you wanted to show other views, but I think you're going to have to rotate some of the pictures. So that would be kind of on the east side, looking to the west and south. And again, at the front entrance at the north. I'm trying to think if there's an elevations that does show the elevations for you folks to see if you'd like to see that towards the similar one to the north. Yeah. Yeah, and the very next one, if you would, the floor plan to kind of some of the things that Michelle was talking about, if you could rotate again to the right, I believe. There we go. Gymnasium towards the back. As you would come in at the entry, I think they have the teen rooms towards the fronts, the teen and the tween, the elementary towards the back. Offices there. You can see the cafeteria seating to the far left. They have which is great, a restroom just for the early elementary kids. And then over to the far right, you have the STEM and the art area. And so, again, some of the very features that Michelle was talking about to accommodate all those things for the kids here. I guess if you would just go to one more down below, I think it might be the elevations. Keep going. There it is right there. Sorry. Yep, that one. If you could rotate it. There we go. So it just kind of shows again the gymnasium to the back, and its height again meeting the requirements of under 35 feet. It's 30 feet 6 inches, and how that would look from the west side, if you would. And that's really it. To say thank you to members of the board, and then I guess we'll take questions as we are.
Thank you. So at this portion, I'll read my findings. Would you like to go first? Okay, perfect. So just so you know, the petition gets sent around. The fire department had no issues with this project. The water department had no issues with this project, nor did the sanitary district have any issues with this project. And I'm going to read now the findings for the planning department. This report is on the petition for B 104-22 905 East Cool Springs. The petitioner is requesting a special exemption use to build a new Boys and Girls Club on 3 vacant parcels. The property is zoned R1C, single family residential. Zone 404.02, use and development of land and development buildings shall only be for the following specific use unless otherwise provided for in this ordinance by obtaining a special exemption approval when all applicable standards cited in Article 24 Special Exemption Review Requirements and Procedures. Once again, the request is for a special exemption use to build a Boys and Girls Club for Boys and Girls Club facility on 3 parcels, zone R1C. My comments. The lots are currently vacant and the petitioner is interested in building a Boys and Girls Club facility on 3 parcels. The site is currently adjacent to the old YMCA that impacted the community when it was closed, giving this development a significant value to the neighborhood. First, the standard of special exemption use are found in zoning code 24.04B and are set out below in italics with the department's proposed finding. Number 1, general welfare. The proposed will not be injurious to the public health, safety, and general welfare of the community. My response, the proposed development will not cause any threats to the public health, morals, or general welfare for the establishment of the proposed use. The structure will be constructed following existing zoning ordinance and design standards outlined in our current regulation. The structure will be designed on 3 lots and will provide an adequate amount of acreage and buffers between surrounding properties. The proposed will continue to align with the surrounding properties following all residential standards established in our ordinance. Number 2, surrounding properties. The special exemption use will not be injurious to the use enjoyment of other properties in the immediate vicinity of the proposed already permitted, nor substantially diminish or impair property value within the neighborhood. My response, granting this special exemption use will not be injurious as the site is currently adjacent to the old YMCA, which is now closed, that was a valuable asset to the neighborhood and the community. The proposed use is substantially similar to the YMCA use, and the YMCA experience was very positive, one for the neighborhood and communities. Also, this proposed use will turn 3 vacant lots into a more visually pleasing site, improving the overall aesthetic of the community. The site itself is zoned R1C, and proposed development follows the regulation outlined in section 04.03 and 04.04. Number 3, hazards. The special use shall not be hazardous to adjacent property or involve use activities, materials, or equipment that will be detrimental to health, safety, and welfare of the person's property through the excessive production of traffic, noise, smoke, or odor, fumes, or glares. My response, the parcels are zoned for R1C, and the proposed expansion will follow the regulations outlined in our zoning ordinance, section 07.02. Construction of these sites will not have a significant impact on the adjacent property during construction. However, the petitioner will follow all permitting, notification, and site development provisions outlined in Article 17, as well as the recommendations and regulations established during site review process. This will result in limited impact on the health, safety, and welfare of the person or property through the excessive production of traffic, noise, smoke, odors, fumes, or glares. Number 4, public facilities and services. The use will be served adequately by essential public facilities and services such as highways, streets, police, fire protection, drainage, structure, water, sewage, facilities, refuse disposal, and schools. My response, the use will provide adequate utilities, access roads, drainage, and other necessary site improvements because petitioner is requested to follow all setback, drainage, fire protection, noise, order, and other requirements that are established in our ordinance. The site will provide adequate passage and connection for highway, streets, police, fire protection, drainage, structure, water, sewage facility, fire disposal, and schools. Petitioner plans to provide access to Cool Springs Avenue to the north as well as Jackson to the east. Number 5, Development requirements. The development of the property will be consistent with the intent of the development required established by this ordinance for similar use. The development will be designed, constructed, operated, and maintained to be compatible with and not significantly alter the existing or intended character of the general vicinity based on the county land development plan and ordinance. My response: approval for this special use will not adversely impact or alter the existing pattern of development of the surrounding areas. The development will align with the overall intent of the county and the city comprehensive plan as well as zoning ordinance. This site is currently adjacent to the old YMCA and has had a major positive impact on the community, which is now closed. Giving this new development a significant value to the community, this site will align with the same developmental, traffic, and design standards that existed within the YMCA's functionality. This facility will provide access to community programs, after-school services, and for the community that once existed in this area. Ordinance number 6, ordinance's intent. Granting a special exemption use will not be contrary to general proposed served by the ordinance and will not permanently injure other properties or use in the same zone. My response: with acceptance of the recommendation approval, this special exemption will not permanently alter the pattern of development for the surrounding areas. This site is currently adjacent to the OYMCA that is currently closed, giving the new development significant value in the community. The facility will provide access to community programs and after-school services for the community. Number 7, county land development plan. The proposed use will be consistent with the character of the zoning district in which it is located and the recommendations of the county land development plan. The requested special exemption use will be consistent with the character and intent as set forth by the existing zoning ordinance and comprehensive land development plan. This site is currently adjacent to the OYMCA that is currently closed, giving new development a significant value to the community. The facility will provide access to community programs and after-school services for the community. Number 8, use regulations. Where there is a use-specific regulation contained in Article 14, the special exemption use shall comply with all of the regulations. My response: Section 0.07.02 of our zoning ordinance provide that indoor community centers are eligible for approval as a special exemption use, and there are no other requirements needed to be met. It is the recommendation of the planning department that we approve B1 104-22 for a special exemption use.
Thank you, Ms. Collins. Mr. Hale, do you want to give your report?
My report for petition number B-104-22, the petitioner Tun & Black Construction LLC on behalf of Boys and Girls Clubs of LaPorte County, Inc. The owner of the property, Paragon Group LLC, Jeffrey Katz. The request here is for a special exception use that has been very thoroughly and properly explained to this body. Initially, I would just again repeat that I've had an opportunity to review all of the notification, and you're free to consider this matter. Next, I would just note that the petitioner provided a great deal of materials in support of and explaining its proposed property and request. Most of that, or some of that at least, was visibly shown to you during their presentation. I've listed all of the documentation that they submitted in support. Both Mr. Novak and Ms. Collins have indicated the legal basis of this. I'll just repeat it quickly. Our zoning ordinance in section 4.02 applies to R1C properties. That indicates that a community center, which is what we're talking about tonight, the petitioner's proposed Boys and Girls Club building, a community center requires special exception use from this body. And that's why we're here. I would also note that, as again indicated both in the petitioner's petition and in Ms. Collins' report, Our zoning ordinance in section 4.02 and other similar provisions, when talking about special exception uses, sometimes has special requirements that must be met. They aren't found elsewhere in our zoning ordinance. They're right there where it's talking about the special exception use. There are none for a community center, so there's no need to address any of that. However, our zoning ordinance does set forth a list of items that must be met for you to grant the special exception use. Ms. Collins went through those in her report. I would note that the petitioner supplied a very nice proposed findings that include the very same things with the petitioner's take on these standards. And you want to read what the standards are, they're in my report. I have no findings, but the standards themselves are there. Finally, I would just state that under section 24.04 subsection C of our zoning ordinance, this body may approve the request if findings are made consistent with the requirements of section 24.05. That is the section that Ms. Collins read, and it is included in the petitioner's material. Or this body could approve the request with the findings consistent with section 24.05, but subject to certain conditions. If there are conditions, they must be included in the motion. I would note that there are no conditions that have been submitted as a recommendation by the planning department. Or this body could deny the request. Or finally, this body could continue this hearing until a future meeting upon an appropriate request, or if you feel you need additional information. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hale. Are there any questions or comments from the commission members, board members?
They were talking about there would be no traffic, no interference with traffic or anything, but how are them children going to get back there? What is the transportation that's going to get those kids back there that it's not going to change anything?
So one of the reasons we chose this specific site actually is that it is at the triangle of several middle and elementary schools, Barker Middle School, Edgewood, and Joy, which would mean that we would likely have bus transportation from all of those sites. Typically, Michigan City Transportation Department will work to get kids to our clubs if it's within the range of their bus routes. Like right now, for example, at the Westcott Club, we can get bus service from Lake Hills because they're a magnet school that drops off in that area. We're walkable from Marsh, and we would have some walkability potentially at this new site as well. And then we also can sometimes get a bus from Pine. So it kind of just depends, but it's usually a combination of working with schools. Kids that live in the immediate vicinity may be bused home and then walk to the sites. And we do have some parent drop off. So it's kind of a hybrid of those things. In the summer, obviously, all of our programs are parent transportation at the beginning of the day and the end.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, I was wondering if I could ask the relationship between Ton and Blank and the boys clubs, why the Ton and Blank is involved in part of this presentation and et cetera.
They're the contractor we've engaged to construct the facility and design it. So they're here to present on specific details with respect to the actual construction.
Oh,
itself.
the construction of it.
Yep.
Okay, fine.
Yep.
Yes, thank you. And then was there any consideration at all of using the old YMCA? And if so, why not?
Yeah, I can certainly bring that up. It just wasn't available for sale. So certainly when we were looking at various sites, and I might speak a little bit, and Michelle can correct me, we looked at a bunch of different sites. This one was for available. Obviously, when you look at the old YMCA in the current condition, it's obviously in very poor condition. It would have been very costly to either rehab or demolish. So it just ultimately wasn't feasible. So yeah, that was certainly something that we considered. We certainly would like to see that building not be there. But the reality is these parcels were available and made the most sense for us.
That's what I was afraid of. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? I have a couple of comments. So is Ton and Blank also the architect on this?
We have an in-house architect and he did the initial work on that. Yes.
I just want to say it's very attractive.
Thank you.
I'm just very impressed.
I mean, also add that Ton and Blank built for the Boys and Girls Club in Valpo and the Boys and Girls Club. I'm sorry, I'm losing the other location.
That's okay. Well, anyway, it's impressive. So it's actually kind of a shame that it's going to be tucked so far back from the street that I'm not sure that anybody's going to really get to see it other than people that go there. And for the kids, that's great. I do have a cover. So I assume though, when you clear the lot for construction, you'll save as many of the existing trees as possible, just for cost, if nothing else. And then I also was wondering, as you were programming, did you give any consideration or thought to sustainability, like solar, indoor air quality, outdoor recreational space? Just talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, on the rendering, you might have seen at least just at the front, there was like a patio area that's off of the area where the STEM classes and the art area would be. We do think that given the heavily wooded area, you're right, it would be great to be able to save some kind of a buffer, if you will, amongst the other neighbors. You probably wouldn't even be able to tell the difference at the south end that would butt up against the Shirley Hines Land Trust. But as far as sustainability, I think the materials and things that they'll use and the efficiency of the equipment that's intended for that is obviously the highest of the efficiency that's on the market now. But as far as, say, for example, solar or anything of that nature, that was not considered at this time.
Do you think it could be? Because you've got a large flat roof there with lots of great south exposure. It would be an ideal situation.
It could be taken under consideration to, look at the cost benefit analysis on that. Yeah.
I think it would be very beneficial to you.
Okay.
And especially if you could apply for grants and get funding, through the ARP, something like that.
Okay.
I think that's all very doable, and I think it's something you should pursue.
We could take a look, definitely.
Great, thanks.
All right.
Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, I have one. When you get built and you got your building going back there, do you have intentions of asking the city to take down the YMCA?
It's being used by a church, right?
Oh, it is. I did not.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I didn't.
So just what Anthony spoke correctly, it actually is being used. It was purchased on a tax sale a few years back. It would have to go through a process and to be torn. We don't just tear down buildings, we go through a process to tear them down, which is a long process. But actually right now, it actually is privately owned and is being used.
Thank you.
And just to touch on that, they also have to go through, they have to qualify for us to demolish them for different structural issues, impact on not just the surrounding area, but the foundation and certain things of that nature. So
I would add though that, from a development usually begets other development. I would say that an investment such as this in that area, it could make the owner more maybe start looking at what's the cost benefit analysis of keeping it as is or transitioning it into something different. Maybe it becomes a tertiary kind of opportunity that benefits the Boys and Girls Club. That maybe it's something else, So I would just say that I would add that investment creates more investment. So it's just the natural way of things. So
great question.
Just to piggyback on what I just mentioned about sustainability, also think of it as an opportunity for education. I mean, kids could be really inspired to be in a facility that is not consuming fossil fuels. And I just think that's a great learning opportunity. Okay, so with that, if there's any other questions for board members, we'll open it up to public comment. Is there any public comment regarding this petition?
You have two online.
Okay,
Come down.
please state your name and address.
Good afternoon. My name is Mitzi McGlone and I live at 154 Concord Drive. And I own 4 parcels of land that butt up right against the west. Good evening. And I definitely think this sounds like an exciting development. We definitely need it in our community and I support that. But to be honest, I'm a little concerned about what my view is going to be. You know, I do have several acres. I have almost 3 acres behind my house. So it's not like I look out of my house and see anything other than flora and fauna right now. But I'm just a little concerned that I'm going to look out and there's going to be a big brick wall or there's going to be something. I wondered, you did answer one question that it's going to be on the 3 lots. And I just wondered on that westernmost lot, how much of it is it going to take up?
You want us to address that? You can.
Okay, thank you.
Wait till. We're fine. It wants to address.
Yeah, roughly that furthest western. That furthest western lot has a width of about 168 feet in width, and I noticed that your parcels there too are, if there are 2 of them, if we went back to that one, Drew, I don't know if you could go back to the actual site, unless you took it out.
It looks to me like there's a dimension of like 273 feet from the west property line to the edge of the building.
That would be correct, but that one that includes the middle lot, if you will. But for your properties, you have 2 also, I think, that are behind there, and they are roughly about 67 feet a piece, or maybe about 180 in total. So if it calls for it, I mean, again, we wish to try and keep as many as what it is that is in the surrounding area to kind of keep a buffer so it doesn't impair too much. You know, leave a little density to leave it hidden.
Okay, thank you. Again, I think this is just a wonderful project, but you know, we like our nice, quiet residential area, and it's a shame you guys couldn't have got the Y. That just would have been perfect. But I understand there's cost and availability. But I just wanted to come tonight and get some information and find out exactly what was going on.
Thank you.
Great, thank you for your comments.
Yeah, this is Tommy Kolavic from 1316 Ohio Street. As far as the old YMCA goes, my next door neighbors own that. They bought it at public auction back in 2012. What they do, they basically now they store restaurant equipment inside of there. I've asked them a couple of times what they're going to do with it, and they tell me that I don't know, but that's what they do with it. That building really needs to be condemned and torn down. I understand that vandals have broken in there and tore out all the copper plumbing and electrical infrastructure, and it's got a really serious mold problem. So that's kind of off the table. But I will say that he has been paying the property taxes on it at every installment since he's owned it. So, you know, it is whatever he can do with it. I know he recently had it for sale. He was asking $750,000 for it. So that's the deal on that. Just thank you.
All right, thanks for your comments. Any other public comment? Please come up and state your name and address.
Hello, everyone. My name is Chris Kraus. I'm the Executive Director of Shirley Hines Land Trust. 109 West 700 North is our office location. We also own and manage Barker Woods Nature Preserve immediately to the south at 444 Barker Road. We just found out we haven't had really a chance to touch base with the Boys and Girls Club in Ton and Blank. The forested area to the north of the nature preserve is something that we've aspired to preserve. So just as a matter of interest, there's not much old growth forest in urban places, particularly Michigan City, which Barker Woods is a very unique habitat in that extends up into this property with some really spectacular maples and oaks and other native plants that are kind of few and far between. We would just, one, we want to make the BZA aware of that and would like to work with the Boys and Girls Club and Ton and Blank. One of the major impacts to Barker Woods Nature Preserve, which is actually a state dedicated nature preserve. So that means the state of Indiana has a conservation easement on the property because it's so ecologically significant, has been kind of undermined over the years because of hydrology changes due to development. So any development, particularly if there's a lot of digging and kind of like, for example, basements would significantly alter the hydrology. So that would be something that we would ask be taken into consideration. And then some things that were already mentioned, like protecting the canopy or the forest to the extent possible would be really appreciated. Invasive plants. A lot of people end up planting invasives, not intentionally, but it just kind of comes with the territory of new development and what you can purchase. And so being able to work in partnership and make some suggestions on what should be planted so that's not detrimental to the adjoining nature preserve would be really appreciated. And I think there's opportunities for collaboration for sure on engaging students. We've done some work with getting Barker Middle School students catty-cornered to the nature preserve out into the natural area. So there's definitely some opportunities, and maybe even creating some trail access to the nature preserve would be beneficial. But just wanted to have that on the record, and we just found out about this a little bit ago, so wanted to mention these things. So thanks.
Those are many great points, Mr. Kraus. Thanks for coming.
Yeah. And just to say thank you so much for your comments. I actually do see, I'm a regular Shirley Hines Preserve visitor myself. I like to hike, and I do see the close proximity to the nature preserve as really an awesome potential collaborative opportunity for us to get those kids into nature, and would love to talk to you guys about some programming and maybe having a naturalist come to the club.
Just so I can add to, I know it is a large piece of woods there. We do have rules too, just for both knowledge. We do have rules on preservation of canopy as well. We spoke about this at our first meeting, what we had. We do have rules that preserve that canopy, and we review that at the time of development, so it does prevent like clear cutting of woods and things like that. So we've already kind of talked about that a little bit. Just so you know, we do review that at time of development, just for knowledge.
Great. Thanks, Mr. York. Okay, any more public comment? One more?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead. State your name and address.
Hi, my name is Chevy. Last name's Woodard. My address is 7401 West US Highway 20, Michigan City, Indiana. I just joined in, and I'm caught the tail end of the presentation from Ton and Blank, and also from the Boys and Girls Club. And just speaking from an inside perspective, the Michigan City area schools, I am a school bus driver, and it's what I've done for the last 8 years, cover 126 square miles. And so the hub for the school bus, for the transportation department, is within walking distance of the facility that they're speaking of. So at the end of all routes, all buses have to go past that facility. So the potential for easing parental responsibility, of parents having to rush to schools, get their kids, it is a very strong possibility that a high percentage of children that we bus from the 126 square miles we cover they won't have a problem getting to the Boys and Girls Club. Those buses pass by that facility every single day. Along with the ample space in the parking lot, there wouldn't be an issue with the buses getting in and out of there. And then coming from a parental perspective, there isn't enough adequate childcare in Michigan City, Indiana. And as we look at the state, and as I bus the state, and I see the mental state of the youth, this would be an immeasurable asset to Michigan City, Indiana. You can't afford to not invest in the future. If you don't invest in the future of these children, Michigan City won't be. So we have to, and also with the director for the Shirley Hines Trust coming up and the children having access to trails and just broadening their horizons in terms of the natural aspect of where they live and the beauty of it all versus what we hear a lot. There's nothing here and I'm bored. There's nothing to do. There's a lot here. And so, you know, with that being said, I have 12-year-old children that are in the Michigan City area school system, and I recently had to leave a full-time job because of inadequate childcare. And I did reach out to the Boys and Girls Club, and they had an extremely long waiting list. So I have a couple of different aspects I'm coming from with this comment. I'm triple vested. So objections, I can't see how, I can see, but I can't see how there should be any objections to this proposal. This, to me, it has to happen because you don't see what I see. And these kids are in a sad state and they need somewhere to go. They really do. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any more public comment? Public comment period is closed. Any other questions or comments from the board members? And if not, then is there a motion to approve this petition?
Mr. Zimmer,
Yes, sir.
may I just remind you all that any motion should include adopting findings in support of the motion.
Go ahead, just jump right in. Anybody?
Yes, I was busy making notes. I recommend that we approve petition B-104-22 concerning the Boys and Girls Clubs of LaPorte County, and that all the should include the findings which is consistent with the requirements of section 24.05 of our zoning ordinance.
Mr. Klinder, that would include the findings that were read out and included in the report of your planning department. Is that correct?
Yes.
Great. There's a motion. Is there a second?
I second.
I call for the vote. Mr. Ricky, I call for the vote. Mr. Ricky,
Yes.
Mr. Fred,
Yes.
Miss Kathy,
Yes.
Miss Deborah,
Yes.
Mr. Lawrence.
Yes.
So ends your vote.
So,
Motion approved.
Motion is approved. Congratulations. We look forward to seeing this develop. Thank you all so much for all that you do for our community. Yeah.
And I also wanted to just say, you did your due diligence when it came down to, it was a great read through. And I just thank you for the cooperation and consistently answering and my random questions and things of that nature. So you did an amazing job with this application. Thank you. Mhm.
Did you put that in there?
Well.
Well, they're the same ones.
I know. We just got multiple. One thing is stored. All right.
Okay, moving on. Our next petition is B 105-22. Who would like to introduce this one?
So B 105-22 is a petition from Fadi Daoud requesting special exemption use to change the use to a car dealership. I'm going to thank you so much. I'm just gonna let Attorney Allen take over. I'm sorry, I just multiplied. Yeah.
I would advise the Board of Zoning Appeals that we've had an opportunity to review the notification documentation supplied by the petitioner. And although we have what I would refer to as the green card, signed receipts by at least half of the property owners, we have no documentation regarding the other approximately half of the adjoining property owners. What do you have? This is the very first time I've seen them. I'm happy to go through it if that's your wish. I'm happy to postpone it if that is your wish. But having not received this, and our rules do require that they're submitted Monday, I always accept them if they come in on Tuesday. But this is the first time, so it would take 15 minutes approximately, maybe a little less, for me to go through it. I leave it to the board to determine, but otherwise I cannot recommend that you go forward with it. And I'm sorry for the petitioner, but I feel that our new forms clearly identify what the responsibility is. I know that Sylvia Collins has been very kind to all the petitioners that I have observed, talking to her about what is. They submitted the list of all the property names, and it's appropriate. It's just we're missing documentation for approximately half of the rather voluminous number of adjoining property owners. And our practice has always been the same. You have to have adjoining property owners notified.
Right.
And just to verify, these were dropped off, and I informed the young lady that dropped them off that I didn't have all of them. She was to bring back the rest, and I never received them. So I don't know if that got lost in translation, but I did inform her that these weren't the complete. And I wanted her to know that the white slips would have worked better for me than this. So
I think we have 90% of the card back.
That's receipts right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's up to the board. But
Well, the thing is, we can't really continue because Steve has to participate in.
Sure.
So we'd have to actually stop for 15 minutes and let him do that. So I don't know.
Sure, sir, no problem.
Could we just, could you ask for a continuance then for next month, and then we'll approach it in January?
So we've been working on the property for about a year right now. We did a lot of remodeling in the property, and we get to the point we get to the point we need we already own 2 car dealers in Michigan City, one in Franklin Street, 10 in Franklin, and the second one by Chevy dealer. And we've been rated #1 in Michigan City as a car dealer, and we would love to go through and open the car dealer on Highway 20.
So 1 more month, is that gonna matter?
Actually, it will For our plan, it's many. We have staff ready to go. We have salesmen ready to start working for us. We have advertising company ready to advertise for us. We have a couple of contracts is waiting for us to be signed for like credit card company, advertising company, car search companies, all waiting on us to get approved.
So what do you think? What is your
I think we should ask them to wait till next month because anybody else that would have come in, we would have done the same thing.
Ricky, what do you think? Make them wait till next month? What about you, Deb? Brad?
I think it's proper. We have to follow our procedures to get the information in.
Yeah.
And it wasn't available at the start of the meeting. And I think continuance is proper.
Yeah, I think so too. You too?
I'm sorry that it's have to be going by what our regulations are. Going by what our the regulations are, I would say yes. I mean, I feel bad that you have to, you're everybody's waiting, but that is true. We have to go by what we have as our rules and regulations.
Well, and we had trouble with our first petition tonight about notices.
Yes,
So in order to stay fair and
Yeah.
consistent, I think we don't have a choice.
So we would ask you to ask for a continuation until next month.
Would you approach and please introduce yourselves?
I'm sorry, my name is Zayed Tabara. I'm one of the owners of the two dealerships in Michigan City.
And your address?
My address, I live in Illinois. I opened those dealers back in 2019. I opened the first one, a joint venture with Mr. Dawood in 2019. We opened the second one and we bought that property last year. We did a gut rehab for the property and we are hoping to flip it. Economy is down, so we want to get some use out of our money. And we were ready to open it as a dealership. And we are in talk joint venture with our neighbor next door. He's redeveloping his property, clearing the trees in the back. So we might have a developer that will take all of that together. I apologize. My secretary who dropped it did not tell me that we need the other white slips. My understanding is that we need to provide the green cards. They returned the people who signed on it. And as you see, I have all the names. Although I have my reservation on the names of who we need to inform within the 300 feet. We are on Highway 20, and one of the addresses is actually my dealer on 10th and Franklin. So we are way beyond that 300 feet required by the city. If you look at the sheet that I got from Miss Collins, one of the address is 10th and Franklin, but it is up to you. I have we did what's required. Miscommunication, misunderstanding. I thought it's only the green cards that we received. That's what we need to present.
Just for clarification, in our application, it tells you how to identify the addresses that needs to be mailed out. In that process that our application holds out, these are the addresses that were returned multiple times, and these were the ones that we required for mailings.
I'd like to just add one thing, but first of all, Mr. Dawood, would you introduce yourself for me?
Yeah, my name is Fadi Dawood. I'm a partner with Zayed Tabara. As he said, we bought the building last year on Highway 20. We become a partner.
And you addressed this just a few moments ago, did you not? You did, yeah.
Yeah.
What we have done typically in these situations is advise the public, both those that are here and those that are attending remotely, that this matter, if you ask for a continuance, has been continued, and it will be heard at our next regular meeting, which is January 10th, here in this building, in this chambers at 6 p.m. And that means that you would not have to, if you have actually notified everybody, then you would not have to re-notify. And we would just announce it here if that's your request.
Sure.
If not, then the board is going to have to consider what they want to do formally by way of a motion. But we leave it to you and your partner.
Would, so ask for a continuous?
Yes.
Okay, we'll ask for it continuous.
Okay.
This is a matter of record, then the petitioners have asked that this matter be continued to our next regularly scheduled meeting, which is January 10th, 2023. The meeting will be held at this location, Council Chambers Building at City Hall at 6 p.m.
So that's the motion.
Well, that's the
request. Is there a motion?
Yes, move for a continuance to the January 10th meeting.
There a second? Okay.
Call for the vote. Mr. Ricky?
Yes.
Mr. Fred?
Yes.
Ms. Kathy?
Yes.
Ms. Deborah?
Yes.
Mr. Lawrence?
Yes.
So in your vote, motion approved.
Thank you, gentlemen. We're sorry. We're not trying to be difficult.
No.
We do have to follow our protocol.
You could have all the neighbors on that.
Again, commissioners, hang on to your paperwork regarding this one. Bring it next month.
Here, so we do are absolute proof and the system. Yeah, right. But, well, I can't make that. But if you show me this, then I think that I know you said, and so that.
That's why I didn't call you.
So respond doesn't require a notification. Sure. But whether or
I
not they
showed
pick
her
it
an
up.
example, which one.
She just gives. I'll go through this and then if you don't, I will tell you. But everything else you get in, bring to them, just give to them. I think the number here match the number.
It doesn't.
Doesn't?
I'm sorry, but I don't see no.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, thank you. Take care.
Have a good.
Absolutely. We just, Sylvia, may I take these?
You may.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Not, written, as we've noted.
And that's what we requested, in our application, it tells you that it should be in the Monday before the meeting, which would give us opportunity, kind of like the earlier one.
Okay, so let's move on then. Old business is approval of findings and orders.
If I may.
Yes.
I have provided you in written form the Michigan City Board of Zoning Appeals decision and findings of fact for petition number B-101-22 amended. The petitioner was Warren R. Gary. The property owners were Store Safe of Michigan City LLC. The request was two. The first was for a special exception use, and the second one was for a development standards variance. In both cases for property at 2600 South Franklin Street. We held our public hearing on October 11th, 2022. That was our last meeting. Following a presentation by the petitioner, the board made findings as submitted by the plan department. Those findings are in written form attached. They're the same as were approved in the motion. There were use regulations for the special exception use that were found in section 7.2 of our zoning ordinance, and they were included as requirements in the approval. And finally, the board approved the special exception use, but subject to certain conditions. One, there shall be no 6 10 by 15 mass storage units located at the entrance of the existing storage facility. 2, a landscape plan is complete and submitted for approval to the planning department. 3, outdoor lighting for all non-residential uses shall be fully shielded to reduce glare and shall be arranged to reflect light away from all adjacent residential districts or uses. Light levels on a site that is subject to an improvement location permit under the ordinance shall comply with the limits specified in table 17.05 of the zoning ordinance. 4, the new structure must be designed in a manner that resembles the materials and aesthetic of primary existing building, the building located at the front of this lot. And finally, 5, all the requirements of section 7.02 of the zoning ordinance shall be followed. As I mentioned, the petition also requested a development standards variance to reduce, if you recall, the rear yard setback. Following presentation on this matter, the Board of Zoning Appeals made findings of fact as submitted by the Planning Department. They are found in my written materials. And finally, the board approved the requested development standards variance, but subject to these following conditions. 1, there shall be no 6 10 by 15 mass storage units located at the entrance of the existing storage facility. 2, a landscaping plan is complete and submitted for approval to the planning department. 3, outdoor lighting for all non-residential uses shall be fully shielded to reduce glare and shall be arranged to reflect light away from all adjacent residential districts or uses. Light levels on the site that is subject to an improvement location permit under the ordinance shall comply with the limits specified in table 17.05. For the new structure must be designed in a manner that resembles the materials and aesthetic of the primary existing building. And 5, all the requirements of section 7.02 of our zoning ordinance shall be followed. And therefore, based on the petition, the presentation of the petitioner, documents, testimony, remonstrances, and other matters brought forth in the public hearing, and all materials, documents, and testimony set out in the record of the matter, and subject to the conditions set out as I read them now twice, the Michigan City Board of Zoning Appeals made the findings set out therein and granted petition number B-101-22 amended on October 11, 2022. The appropriate motion would be to approve the report as submitted to you.
Anybody?
I make a motion that we adopt the findings of facts, the planning department report, attorney's report, and approve the petition B-101-22 as amended with the conditions listed in Article 10.
And the written report as I submitted.
And the written report as submitted by Mr. Hale.
Thank you. There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
For the vote,
Before you record the vote, just make note, the last line, Ms. Stransky just pointed out to me, has a year of December 2021 on it.
On the last page.
Last page, just where we sign off at. Above it has November 11th, 2022, but all of which is affirmed on this day blank of December 2021. So just a note of that.
Well, then I would ask that the motion be amended to change the date on page 7 of November 11 to October 11, and the date or the month of December 2021 to December 2022.
Should be the 13th day of December 2022.
Yeah.
Make a motion that we amend the findings as to the date amended on October 11th, 2022, and it's to be affirmed on the 13th day of December 2022.
I second.
Call for the vote. Mr. Ricky?
Yes.
Call for the vote. Mr. Ricky?
Yes.
Mr. Fred?
Yes.
Miss Kathy?
Yes.
Miss Deborah?
Yes.
Mr. Lawrence?
Yes.
So ends your vote. Motion approved.
Skylar or Sylvia, do you want me to pass one of these around to sign, everybody to sign, or? Yes. Do you have a particular one you want me to sign, or?
Do we need to pick the date first?
Stop that kid and sign it.
I already scratched it out of my. Is it okay if it has a little doodle on it? Or do you want to give me a clean one? Somebody give me a clean one.
Signature page.
I'm already not built.
You have a clean.
Sign off on it.
He didn't write on it, just cross it in. It's okay. Change the date on there, Ricky, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Yeah, he will.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Do great to have you.
Okay, is there any new business to discuss?
No, I don't have any new business to discuss.
Is there any other public comment regarding any of these petitions this evening or about anything else? Okay, so hearing none, I have some.
Yeah, this is Tommy Kolovic from 1316 Ohio Street. I just want to wish everybody a happy Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Thank you.
Thank you. Happy New Year to you.
Christmas and Happy New Year to you too.
Thank you. Happy Merry New Christmas.
I don't know.
Thank you. You know, I actually like the way you put that.
Talented.
Yeah,
That's when you're at the head of the.
this is true. This is.
So before we adjourn this evening, I did have something I wanted to say. I've been working involved with this organization called Carbon Neutral Indiana, and some of you have already heard me talk about this. So the executive director of that organization, it's a non-for-profit, he's based in Indianapolis, but is working all over Indiana, has written a small but very effective book called Carbon Neutral Indiana, a practical guide to climate optimism. And what Daniel is doing is he's distributing this book to every elected official in the state of Indiana in the hopes to inspire us to work toward carbon neutrality, not only personally in our own lives and our households, but also as we work together as a body here in the city, we could be doing more to move us toward carbon neutrality, which is why I made those comments I did to the Boys and Girls Clubs people. I just want to get it on people's radar. This is something that's very crucial we need to be working on and not just talking about it. So I've taken it upon myself. I got a block of books from him and I'm gifting them to as many people as I can in different boards and commissions that I'm involved with. So last night I gave them out at the redevelopment commission meeting, and tonight I'm giving one to each of you. So please take a look at it, read it, absorb it, be inspired by it. And if there's any comments you want to make, maybe at the next meeting about it, I'd be more than happy to entertain comments and questions. So that's it.
We have an assignment.
Yes.
We do. We have homework. I'm back in school.
I appreciated your comments to the concerning the development of that building.
If they not.
No, not yet.
Now, I appreciated the comments you made concerning this new facility that we're putting in the Boys and Girls Club. I think it's mandatory that we as a nation, as a people, adhere to these requirements in order for our offsprings to have something to live for.
Especially at a facility that, you know, is for kids, you know, I think they're our future. Why shouldn't we give them a facility that's built for the future? So, those are my comments. Is there any other public comment, board comments, anything anybody else wants to say other than Merry Christmas and Happy New Year?
There you go.
There it is.
Next year.
We'll see you all next year and take care and be well.
Mr. Zimmer?
Yes.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn. So moved. We're done.
We're good.